Hello everyone, today is 6th of November, now it's about 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. And of course I have to start with the presidential elections in US. Entire world is focused on this global event, I will say. And well, we have breaking news, if I may say this way, which is that former US President Donald Trump is winning these elections with a landslide. We have this report from RIA Novosti that is based on Fox News, US media outlet, according to which Donald Trump already secured 277 votes of electoral college, and we have prediction of New York Times, according to which Republican presidential nominee is projected to win 301 electoral votes when more than 270 is needed. Only 270 basically is needed to secure presidential victory in presidential elections. So Donald Trump is definitely future president, next president of US, and the question is now, what should we expect from his presidency, from his second presidential term? What should world expect from Trump's administration? And well, share your opinion, dear friends, what you think is going to happen in next 4 years in this world. Me, as a person who lives in Moscow, in Russia, of course, first of all, interested in dynamics between Washington and Moscow. Will Trump's administration de-escalate with Russia, or at least try to de-escalate, or will Trump's administration will further escalate her? We will see. Time will tell. I am not overly optimistic, but at the same time, I don't want to be too pessimistic either. I hope statements, Trump's administration will follow statements that they made during their election campaign. If you remember, and of course you remember, Trump himself said quite a few times that he will most likely end hostilities in former Soviet Republic on the name of Ukraine before his inauguration, if he is going to win elections. Inauguration in US will take place on 20th of January, if I remember correctly. So therefore, if Trump was serious on that, if he will be able to follow his promises, if deep state or military industrial complex intelligence community will not block his initiatives, then we will probably see some significant steps from White House in terms of de-escalating the situation in Ukraine, in terms of de-escalating with Russia in next 2 months time. Although one should keep in mind that formally, until inauguration, Biden is still in charge, right? And to make life harder for Trump, his inner circle, his administration, Biden's administration may go ahead with some extreme steps in next 2 months, including authorizing NATO member states to conduct long-range strikes with their Western weapon systems deep inside the Russian territory. So therefore, I will with interest read your take on this topic. What should we expect? What should we expect in regards of relationships between US, collective West, and Russia? Will we see the escalation, or should we expect further escalation? Hard to tell. I mean, hard to tell. Simultaneously, of course, there are at least 2 other major issues that world is facing when it comes to collective West's policies. First hotspot is of course Middle East, and you know, I'm afraid during the Trump's administration, Western ruling class will push further their agenda to provoke a regional war, because for Western ruling class, China is main target, main threat. That's how they see China. Anyways, and probably they will continue their policies to destabilize Middle East, eventually to provoke regional war, to cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources by shutting down navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. And because of their previous statements of Trump in regards to Iran, because of the statements of his former or current inner circle in regards to Middle East and Iran, I'm afraid we will see significant escalation in this region during the Trump's administration. And also, I think Washington will, under leadership of Trump, will significantly escalate with China directly in the Pacifics, in the Pacifics, in regards to South China Sea situation, in regards to Taiwan situation. And I would not be surprised at all if under the Trump, Taiwan will get sacrificed in the same way as Ukraine get sacrificed under Biden's administration. So yes, I would not be surprised if Western ruling class will provoke military conflict between Beijing and Taipei, which will put world, of course, on edge of global war, right? So I don't know, dear friends. I mean, you tell me, we should expect more peace in this world under Trump's administration or more hostilities. I'm afraid we will see further drift of collective West from rest of the world, further isolation, and more hostilities. But I might be wrong. I hope I am wrong, by the way, actually, because I want to see de-escalation, really, all around the world. First of all, obviously, between Russia and the collective West. I said many times that I don't see even a single objective reason why West should treat Russia with this hostility. We are not enemies. We should not see each other as enemies. All it takes is a respectful approach, right? Respect. And all it takes is to, having in mind their interests of each other, right? Whenever there are some talks about whatever topics, and that's it. Until now, Western ruling class was unable to acknowledge that Russia also has its security concerns, its national interests, and willing to defend these interests, even fight for it. Maybe something will change under Trump's presidency in the US. I don't know. So yes, by the way, this $1 million question is answered about who is going to be next president. It's going to be Trump again. And by the way, we have this report from TASS news agency that Trump once again promised to end the conflict in Ukraine, in short, once he's elected, and to stop world drifting towards the Third World War. I mean, let's translate this news to be a bit more precise. Yet again, I have a question. Will deep state or military industrial complex in US intelligence community or Western ruling class in general, groups that are really pulling the strings, will allow Trump to de-escalate, or will they not? So US Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has again promised to end the conflict in Ukraine and prevent the Third World War if he wins the election. I will end the conflict in Ukraine, which would never have started if I were president, the politician said, speaking to supporters in Michigan. The event is or was broadcasted by the conservative media company RSBN. I will stop the house in the Middle East and prevent World War III, Trump said, adding that he knows all the world players. Well, he certainly knows in person, if not all, then significant number of world leaders, that's for sure. He definitely knows in person Russian President Vladimir Putin and the leader of China, Xi Jinping. And who knows, by the way? I mean, I guess at this point, the entire world is hoping that US will start de-escalating, all right? But I don't know. I just don't know, dear friends. As I said, I don't want to be overly optimistic, and same time, I don't want to be overly pessimistic either. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what is going to happen. And dear friends, before I continue, let me remind you, if I may, if you're watching this update on YouTube, that I have a channel on Rumble also, and this is my channel on Rumble. And of course, I'm publishing my news updates on Rumble too. And if you have an account on Rumble, please consider to join our community there. We just reached 3,000 on Rumble, and of course, I would love to see our communities grow on Rumble. And if you can, please watch my videos on Rumble too, because after all, my channel was never monetized and will never be monetized on YouTube, while on Rumble my channel is monetized. Unfortunately, view numbers are quite low, as you can see on your screen, and therefore right now Rumble don't really play some crucial role as a means of financial support for this small media project of mine. But who knows, maybe sometime in the future our community will grow there and things will change. A link to my Rumble channel is under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And if you can, please subscribe to my Telegram also. I mean, you can turn off the notifications if you don't want to, hear about notifications every, 5, 10 or 30 minutes, because I'm updating my channel quite often with the news. But when needed, at least you will be subscribed. And when needed, I mean if my channel on YouTube is, for example, taken down, which might happen at any time, really, if we take into account how aggressive YouTube's algorithm is towards my channel. Let's continue with some more news. And TASS news agency is reporting, dear friends, that Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted drone launched by Kyiv regime with the assistance of NATO member states, obviously, US first of all, over the Caspian city in Dagestan, by the way. In Dagestan. So this is a zone of special military operation, and this is Dagestan, by the way, on Caspian Sea shore. And that's where this drone was intercepted. And just a couple of minutes ago, I saw video on one of the Telegram channels about second drone that was launched by Kyiv regime that was flying over there Dagestan. Hopefully that drone was also intercepted. At this point, no reports about casualties on the ground or more or less significant damage. Of course, if any updates, I will share additional information on my Telegram channel and next update. When it comes to situation on the ground in the zone of special military operation, I'll give you this update that Russian armed forces established full control over the Volchanka settlement in Pokrovsk sector of the front line, and also latest reports are that Russian troops established control over the Berestki settlement on the northern side of Kurakhova town. This is also southern flank of Pokrovsk sector. Russian troops improving positions basically all along the front line in zone of special military operation, and Russian troops improving positions obviously in zone of counter-terrorist operation in Kursk salient area, where Kyiv regime still has units of some 16 different brigades at least, and also number of foreign mercenaries or NATO mercenaries, as I call them, but obviously initiative is in Russian hands. And one may even argue that collapse of Kiev regime's forces as a more or less capable entity has already begun, and the situation in South Donetsk and Pokrovsk sectors can be seen as a direct indicator of that. Let's continue with some more news, and we have this disturbing report on RIA Novosti that Ukraine has lost some 68 radioactive. Let's translate this news, dear friends. So, dozens of radioactive sources have disappeared in Ukraine, said Igor Kirillov, the head of their RSBS troops. This is Russian troops of radiation, chemical, biological defense. We are particularly wary of this situation. Report of the Security of the National Security Council of Ukraine to Prime Minister Shmyhal. It reports that the loss of 68 sources of ionized radiation, including highly active ones, which were located at the Institute of Metrology in the village of Liptsy, Kharkov region, the Lieutenant General said. So even Kiev regime is acknowledging that they lost some dozens of sources of radiation, basically. And of course, this is dangerous, by the way. Kiev regime is intentionally or unintentionally, but are unable even to store and control movement of its radioactive sources. And Ukraine has plenty of it. After all, I remind you, friends, that during the Soviet era, there was a number of institutions in Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic that were working on this field of nuclear physics. There are several nuclear power stations, so plenty of radioactive sources there, and 68 of them have been lost and may appear in hands of all sorts of extremist and terrorist groups worldwide, if you take into account level of corruption in Kiev-controlled territory. So very dangerous developments there. I wonder if Western ruling class, if Western elites or secret services even pay little attention to this topic, because it is extremely dangerous, isn't it? But they are now too focused on hostilities against Russia, so therefore just look what is happening there. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russian armed forces further improved their positions along the Oskol River in Kupiansk direction, and by the way, many sources here in Russia are reporting that in a fairly short time we should expect sectoral scale Russian offensive operations in Kupiansk sector and also in Zaporozhye sector. Vladimir Rogov, head of We Are With Russia NGO, that often comments on the situation on the front line, especially in Zaporozhye region, said yesterday, that was, I believe, that Russian armed forces had established now strong enough positions in Zaporozhye sector to basically, strong enough bridgehead basically, to launch a sectoral scale offensive operation and to reach and liberate even Zaporozhye city itself, which is quite a bold statement to make, because in my opinion, Russian armed forces probably will continue to operate with their mobile defense or active defense strategy and the tactics for a little while. But who knows, if we will observe total collapse of the regime's defense lines all along the front line. In that case, of course, the strategy might change, and we might see these so-called arrow offensives when Russian troops will launch really large-scale offensive operations and simultaneously in number of directions, and will be focused then not necessarily on or not just only on demilitarization and denazification of their enemy forces, but on liberation of as much territories as possible. So there will be crucial difference in strategies, right, and the tactics. Right now, Russian armed forces using active defense strategy, and they are focused on demilitarization first. And because in certain areas, Kiev regime's forces just are unable to withstand the pressure and retreating, obviously Russian troops moving further forward. But it does not mean that Russian troops already started some large-scale offensive operations. Now, since 2022, we have not seen truly large-scale Russian offensive, but we will see it. We will see it, and the entire world will witness how big of a difference there will be between these two strategies, active defense and large-scale offensive. And I explained many times before why Russia is preferring now this active defense, and since the 2022, basically, once these negotiations in Istanbul between Moscow and Kiev was derailed, I don't think there is any need to, further talk about that point. Many members of our community are quite often complaining that I'm repeating myself time to time, but dear friends, I have a reason for that. I mean, today's program may be watched by some 10, 15, 20% of our community, and tomorrow's program may be watched by another 10, 15, 20% of our community. So, I have to be informative for all of our community as much as I can, isn't it? So at certain points, yes, I have to repeat myself, because how am I know that all the members of community who watched my update, let's say a month ago, are watching this update today also? I just could not know that. And there are certain topics that sometimes need to be need some more time to explain better way or some. Anyways, I mean, my English is killing me. So many times I want to say something, but I just cannot, because of this language barrier. I'm unable to construct sentences fast enough. But anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some more news. And well, that's exactly the news that I was talking about just a minute ago. Vladimir Rogov, head of We Are With Russia organization, NGO, stated that Russian side now has strong enough positions, bridgehead basically in Zaporozhye sector, to start sectoral scale, at least sectoral scale offensive operation. It might happen. Expectations are that Russian troops will start a large scale offensive in Kherson direction, in Zaporozhye direction, in Kursk, Kupiansk direction, sorry. So, it is possibility. It is possibility for sure. RT is also reporting that Foreign Minister of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, warns NATO of missiles red line. So Moscow would not hesitate to respond to aggressive actions by NATO. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has warned, allowing the Ukrainian military to use Western-supplied long-range weapons to strike deep inside Russian territory would be treated as a one such a step, the diplomat told Россия сегодня on Tuesday. Kiev's forces would not be able to operate such weapons independently and would require the presence of NATO specialists as well as intelligence data obtained through the bloc's satellite systems, Lavrov stated. If such weapons are used, that would mean that not just Ukraine, but NATO nations are openly at war with Russia. Diplomats stressed the nature of this conflict, which the Western leaders sought to conceal, would literally come out. According to Lavrov, Moscow is well aware of US-led military bloc's aggressive policies. It has designated Russia as the biggest direct threat to its security, and NATO troops are being trained to launch offensive operations based on this. The diplomat said Europe is being militarized at a quickened pace. Lavrov said, our opponents should not be mistaken. In case of any aggressive actions by NATO or its member states against our nation, adequate retaliatory measures will be taken in full compliance with Russia's right for self-defense embodied in their UN Charter, the diplomat said, adding that Moscow would use any means to ensure its security. So yet another strong warning from Moscow, and I hope not just Western ruling class is listening, but entire world is listening, because I mean, if things go down in this extremely escalatory ladder, then world will know who provoked it and who is responsible. TASS news agency is reporting that according to Ministry of Defense of Belarus, NATO is preparing for a direct military conflict with Minsk and Moscow. Yes, NATO is preparing for a conflict with Belarus and Russia. We all know that, but yet again, I mean, I don't want to be overly pessimistic. So let's hope Western ruling class will come to its senses and will realize that further escalation with Russia will not serve their self-preservation interests. Let's say it this way, right? And I'm still, by the way, I still think there will be no more full-scale conflict between Russia and NATO. I mean, I don't think Western ruling class is that suicidal to provoke full-scale war. No. RT is reporting that Netanyahu fires Israel's defense minister. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has fired Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, citing significant gaps between their respective positions on their war against Hamas and Hezbollah. Foreign Minister Israel Katz has been offered their defense job, while Gideon Saar has been tapped to take his position if he leaves. According to Israeli media and dear friends, I saw a number of reports early this morning from Israel that hundreds and thousands of people were protesting, Israelis were protesting firing of their defense minister, Yoav Gallant. Clearly, there is some internal conflict in Netanyahu's government, and it seems like Netanyahu is more and more allied with some extremist individuals in his cabinet, extremist individuals in the Knesset, Israeli parliament, and this is obviously extremely dangerous development. Extremely dangerous development, because as I said, there are certain forces in this world, Western ruling class namely, that want to provoke a regional war in the Middle East, and they probably will be happy to further encourage Netanyahu on to conduct some further steps towards this direction to provoke this regional war. And I remind you, dear friends, that right now Israeli forces are involved in ground military operations in its free neighbors, on territory of its free neighbors, Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria. And Israeli side confirmed basically that yes, they are conducting some ground operations in Syria. So who knows, maybe Netanyahu wants some major invasion to happen in Syria also. And which country is next then? I don't know. Jordan, Egypt. That's the only countries that are left, right? All the other neighbors of Israel already been invaded and are under constant attacks. When it comes to Syria, by the way, it was a special operation, but it's the first time when Israel acknowledged that they conducted ground operation in Syria, while before we all know that Syria was targeted by Israeli Air Force on regular basis. RT is reporting that Moldavian election was not free or fair, according to Kremlin statements. So the Kremlin has refused to fully acknowledge that Maya Sandu won last weekend's Moldavian presidential elections, asserting that their electoral process was neither fair nor democratic. Spokesperson of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, stated that Sandu cannot be seen as a legitimate holder of their office, emphasizing that the majority of the people within Moldova itself did not vote for her. And I remind you, dear friends, that what happened is that Sandu's regime did not send enough ballots in Russia so that citizens of Moldova will have opportunity to vote for these elections, during these elections. And same time, citizens of Moldova that were living and are living in the EU, in Europe, or in the West, collective West countries, let's say, received all the carte blanche, all, were in preferable situation. So majority of the people in Moldova that are actually lives in Moldova, they vote against Sandu. Right? And her opponent was winning the election until last moment, when according to Sandu's regime, numbers came from the West, right? And according to those numbers, some 70 to 80% of the citizens of Moldova that are living in the collective West countries vote for Sandu, and that's how Sandu gained 51% or 50, from 51 to 54% of votes. It was very dodgy elections, by the way. It hardly can be called elections at all. That's how badly it was organized and manipulated. And therefore, I completely agree with their assessment of the Kremlin that those so-called elections definitely cannot be called free or fair, and the Sandu is definitely not the legit president of the Moldova. But this former Soviet Republic is destined to end, in my personal opinion. I believe in next 3 to 5, maximum 10 years time, there will be no more Moldova on political map, and this republic will be divided in number of parts. One part will join most likely Romania, and the rest will join Russia or try to act independently with closer ties with Russia, but will definitely separate itself from this other part that see itself as a Romanians and want to be part of Romania. So Moldova, as we know it, is basically finished. It's just a matter of time and formalization of this divide. Also, dear friends, we have this report from Kommersant newspaper that Bitcoin reached a record high based on information from US about presidential elections. So investors in Bitcoin are happy that Trump is winning, and price reached $74.3 thousand, by the way, on a single Bitcoin. Significant jump from previous level. Just a couple of days ago, Bitcoin was 60 something thousand, right? And now 74, and will continue to rise, I guess, because Donald Trump on several occasions stated his support to Bitcoin, to this blockchain idea, and so investors are, I guess, happy that he is winning and have more trust now in these cryptocurrencies, right? And so I will end this update on that, dear friends. Relatively short one, but of course today all the channels, by the way, all the channels, active or passive, will come up with their updates. Major topic is of course these elections, and therefore it is good that my update is short, so I will not take too much of your time. Thank you very much, dear friends, for your attention, for your support. Hopefully you will like this update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary, especially on the topic of your expectations in regards to policies, foreign policies, or even internal policies of Trump's future administration. Let's see how correct our reading of the big picture will be. And dear friends, if you like my work, if you want to see further development of this small media project of mine, you can support my work with donation through PayPal or Boosty platforms, or by subscribing to my Patreon and Boosty pages, where I have quite a lot of additional extra content, news updates, some videos about life in Russia, behind the scene episodes, and so on, and more programs to come there exclusively for Patreon and Boosty. So hopefully you will find it interesting. All the links on this video in description box, including to my crypto wallet, by the way. If you're good with the crypto, well, you can support through that also. And yes, this is it for now. Have a great day. And dear friends, if not some technical issues, this evening I will have a second update on my Patreon and Boosty. So see you then. Bye for now.